This video introduces the Horizon 2020 MEDINA project, along with the contributed framework and the basic concepts needed to contextualize the project's contribution. The training is structured in 4 different parts, starting with some basic background related to the European Cybersecurity Certification Scheme for Cloud Services, or EUCS for short, followed by a short overview of the European-funded MEDINA project, along with the contributed framework, and finalizing with additional information and links where to find further details. Let us start by taking a glance at the basic MEDINA background, in particular EUCS. It all started back in 2019, when the European Cybersecurity Act was introduced. It proposed the notion of European cybersecurity certification schemes with 3 different levels of assurance, namely basic, medium, and high, and very important for MEDINA, the Cybersecurity Act also introduced the notion of continuously monitoring the cybersecurity compliance of ICT products, services and processes. This is a very important concept for cybersecurity, and a big difference between EUCS and other international schemes. Continuous compliance allows demonstrating that requirements and controls were effectively applied during a whole period of time. Finally, the Cybersecurity Act delegated in ENISA the responsibility for developing the EU certification schemes. These included our MEDINA target EUCS, the European Cybersecurity Certification Scheme for Cloud Services. Assurance levels in EUCS were designed to minimize different types of cybersecurity risks, depending on the threat actor's profile. Each assurance level relates to a conformance assessment methodology ranging from self-assessments to third-party assessments where the notion of continuous, automated, monitoring is mandated. We will revisit this concept later on, because it is the starting point of our work in MEDINA. CENELEC, one of the 2 official standardization bodies in Europe, has been nominated to develop the corresponding technical specifications for EUCS. The initial EUCS certificates are planned to see the light sometime in 2025. Per se EU certification schemes will be voluntarily. However, we don't have to forget that upcoming EU cybersecurity regulations and directives, including the Artificial Intelligence Act and the NIS2 directive, establish that presumption of conformity will be based on the referred EU certifications. Therefore, the prime importance of EUCS. Now that we have introduced the basics behind EUCS, let us talk more about MEDINA. EUCS is in the core of MEDINA's goal, where we contribute a framework for achieving continuous audit-based certification in EUCS. Our framework comprehends both technology and processes, which are aligned to existing and upcoming standards, thus empowering early adopters. Furthermore, the contributed framework can be extended, as we will see later, to support more standards than only EUCS. Being MEDINA a European-funded project, it consists of a consortium of pan-European partners which combine their unique expertise and vision to create a framework for continuous audit-based certification aligned to EUCS. We have almost reached the end of the project's lifetime, meaning that the framework has been prototyped and is being validated by both Fabersoft and Bosch. Thanks to MEDINA, envisioned EUCS scenarios can leverage automation, trustworthy evidence and certification management, and standards to reduce manual labor and improve operational efficiency. Not only MEDINA can support auditors in assessing the documentation of the cloud providers thanks to AI-based techniques known as natural language processing or NLP, but it also allows cloud providers to continuously monitor compliance and timely identify deviations which could result on a certificate being revoked. Finally, even regulators may benefit from MEDINA by realizing the increase of provided assurance thanks to the notion of continuous compliance monitoring. With time, it is our hope that regulators will empower more automation and machine-readable formats in the cybersecurity certification schemes. Which benefits can be expected from MEDINA? We can easily summarize in 4 different advantages for involved stakeholders. First, MEDINA provides access to implementation guidance related to the EUCS requirements where automation of compliance is needed. Second, we also contribute with a set of tools aiming different organizational roles, including external auditors and internal governance teams, related to EUCS certification processes. We will elaborate more about the referred MEDINA tools later during this training. Third, EUCS auditors can benefit from MEDINA's trustworthiness techniques, which allow for management of collected EUCS evidence in alignment to the expectations from regulators. Finally, MEDINA has not only leveraged international standards to guarantee interoperability of the contributed framework, but we have also steered relevant initiatives to inject the notion of continuous compliance monitoring. It is our hope that these notions will pave the road for leveraging automation in upcoming cybersecurity certification processes. Let us take a closer look at the MEDINA framework, its contributed tools and processes. Please notice that more detailed training videos exist for each component in the framework. Core in our framework are the stakeholders which benefit from the use of MEDINA, including cloud service providers, conformance assessment bodies, and national cybersecurity certification agencies. These can have access to MEDINA either by using the integrated user interface or by leveraging our APIS. Also essential are the actual certification scheme to leverage. For the time being only EUCS is supported, and the corresponding set of cloud services to become the so-called target of evaluation. MEDINA's orchestrator provides the functionality to continuously gather either technical or organizational evidence from the target of evaluation thanks to the use of evidence collectors. For example, MEDINA can retrieve technical evidence related to a cloud service's security posture using native CSP functionalities. Leveraging natural language processing, it is also possible for MEDINA to support auditors in the assessment of documental evidence, for example security policy of the CSP, which is then collected by the orchestrator. Needless to say, gathered evidence needs to be put in context by leveraging the actual certification scheme, for example EUCS. In MEDINA, this is thanks to the catalog of controls and metrics, where EUCS requirements are associated to metrics which are then used by the orchestrator to assess the collected evidence. The catalog also provides additional functionalities like implementation guidelines, self-assessment questionnaires, and mappings to other standards which could be needed by the CSP on top of EUCS. What if the metrics in the catalog need to be customized in order to match specific organizational requirements? This is possible thanks to the component called Customization of Requirements, which provides authorized users with the possibility to change so-called target values associated to EUCS compliance criteria. What happens once the orchestrator has gathered and evaluated all relevant evidence from the cloud service? It is time to take a holistic view and aggregate compliance levels related to all resources involved in the provision of the cloud service. Furthermore, aggregated compliance values must be used to assess risks related to potential lack of compliance in resources with different levels of criticality. Risk assessment is another component in MEDINA, which provides detailed information to the framework to compute the level of non-conformity, major or minor, for the whole target of evaluation. Finally, this information is used once again by the orchestrator to automatically control the status of the EUCS certificate issued to the cloud service. Now that MEDINA's framework is continuously monitoring the target of evaluation, and controlling the corresponding EUCS certificate, it is time to talk about the auditor's toolbox. Conformance assessment bodies play a central role in EUCS, and MEDINA provides 2 components to support them in their work. First, the Credentials and Proofs of Certificates leverages self-sovereign identities (SSI) to guarantee authenticity of managed EUCS certificates. Future versions could also accommodate for selective disclosure of information related to the target of evaluation. Second, the integrity validation of evidence help auditors to detect tampered evidence which could compromise the certification process. This is a very important feature and essential for enabling the full potential of future continuous certification processes. This component is based on blockchain technology to implement a secure vault for collected evidence. Remember that there are more MEDINA training videos exploring in much more detail the components of the framework. Please do not forget to check those out. Now, let us finalize this video with some closing remarks on further information available to early adopters. The MEDINA web, where all public deliverables of the project are available. The MEDINA YouTube channel. The MEDINA community in Zenodo, that contains among other things papers produced in the project. The MEDINA GitLab where the source code is available.